I did it again. I played with your heart. Bounce on it, crazy style, crazy style, crazy style. All right, I think I got it fixed. Hopefully it works because I can hear stuff back perfectly fine, but when it goes through the OBS, that's when it gets a little glitchy. So we're going to work towards it. I think this will come out with 100% audio quality. It's just I got to workshop it a lot. So I'm going to record the whole episode and listen to the whole episode back and pinpoint exactly what's causing the issues. Because I got to be able to step back from the microphone a little bit to gesticulate properly. Otherwise, I'm not going to make my points. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care. They're going to laugh at me. So let's get into it. I've been thinking about misogyny and misandry a lot recently because it's unironically like racism in that it's face blind, action blind, and treats obviously diverse subsets, in this case dichotomies, as monoliths. That's very egalitarian thinking. The basis for communism is a philosophy. It's no coincidence that a lot of people actually, despite the fact that they say they're anti-communist, they say that they're conservative, they actually fall into the exact same mental traps that people in the Soviet Union fell into. So, we gotta be careful with that egalitarian thinking, which at the end of the day, okay, so I think about this a lot. Words are one-dimensional, right? They really are just a point. And they're a point that's inked hypothetically so that people can use them in construction. So you take this point and you connect it together by making a sentence. You connect word to word to word to word to word, and you make a line. Okay, now you have 2D. This is basically string theory, but these are the only ones that matter, 1, 2, and 3. 4 is also kind of important for understanding time, but you don't really need to learn 4. 3 is very important because that will help you actually rotate the apple in your head. And once you hit a line, then you never get past a line in your own psyche when you're dealing with words. That's why feelings are more important, because they are 3D entities inside of you. Once your words have been spoken or written and received, that's when they become a concept. And the shape of that concept put into a 3D metric with that line that you put and how it's interpreted depends on where exactly in that graph that the concept goes. So keep that in mind. How people interpret what you say is the entire dependency of what it means to them. You may think that this flat 2D line thing is applicable to everybody, but it's not. That's egalitarian thinking. So now that that's been squared away, the song "Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better" comes to mind, thinking about, anything you can do, I can do better. And that's like a young girl's song about realizing that a child's folly, realizing that they do have superior niche traits to the opposite gender, and women tend to mature a couple of years faster than men at a consistent rate throughout psychology. That's exactly why at a certain point they think that their peer group is stupider than them, because they are slightly more psychologically matured at that point than their male counterparts. That doesn't mean that they're better. So let's get into why. Let's get into it. This is very, very important. This is so important. So please listen. So anything a woman can do with her upper body, aside from nursing children, a man can do better. From the neck down to the waist, a man has the superior torso. Think Conan, for instance. He's literally an artistic embodiment of that truth, of which Arnold Schwarzenegger slotted into and then became like a superstar. Whereas women have this superior lower bodies. They can actually run longer than men. Their muscles are different, longer. Their hips are more load-bearing and can hold weight longer, aided by the fact that their upper bodies weigh less than men's. They don't have the dire weakness of the testicles, too, in their lower bodies. While they do have breasticles on their upper bodies that are parallel to both this weakness and my point as a whole. Women's lower bodies are superior. The mind, on the other hand, is not hard locked in any way, shape, or form. Thus, we have created and wrestled with the term free will. I believe in free will, not the least because it's boring and for everybody involved if we don't. And if there is predetermination, that means that there is a creator, and that'd be very boring if you wouldn't endow free will. That's the old kind of Protestant argument that I heard. But most importantly, because the excuse of predestination has been used, and I've studied this, by the worst theologians throughout history to manipulate entire societies into conflagrations of destruction and eventual suicide. And in a Jungian sense, the coniunctio of men's weak lower bodies and strong upper bodies, and women's weak upper bodies and strong lower bodies, is the most important conjunction from which understanding of helps us bridge the gap between the very real opposites that have cleaved to and fro throughout the universe. And you may have already guessed where this is going. When a man cleaves from his mother, or a woman cleaves from their father, and joins in the holy sacrament of matrimony, context elevating far above the mundane, we compensate for each other's opposites. But we remain lost, self-defeating, or infantile, or all the above, if we never move towards becoming that synthesis and using it to raise children and repeat the natural cycle by which we are all destined for. And it is always unfortunate when people get sterilized, and this is one of the reasons why the transgender argument is genuinely an argument that needs to be had, and anybody hand-waving it away is likely psychotic and on some form of psychotic medication, or they're an adult Star Wars fan. Either or. I'm not going to get deep into this because I can. Because it always ends up gravitating towards, it doesn't need to be said for the 9,001th time that it's unhealthy, but in homosexual relationship, the partners always end up gravitating towards this structure by imitation. Gay men call it dom and sub, or top and bottom. Women call it butch and femme, but what it is them aping the roles of their natural counterparts. Poorly. There's a tremendous amount of abuse as a baseline in homosexual relationships, and everybody knows it, everybody sees it. It's impossible to hide with the internet these days. Also, Obama just said that young boys should be friends with gay men, which is just like, let me be queer. Not really all that funny, but I thought I'd crack that joke. Anyways, most incels and femcels just have a bunch of egalitarian, flat earth, can't rotate the apple because I've never been trained to get above the bell curve, thinking bouncing around in their heads, knocking over childhood memories and breaking holes in the walls instead of high-fidelity thoughts about linking and building. It should never be 50-50. It should be a bunch of different 70-30s that compensate for each other's weaknesses. That's what it is. And those extra, that 30% on the other side, allows for when the partner is damaged or sick or recovering in some way, shape, or form, absent, the opposing partner can compensate with their 30% until the person with the superior ability to do that particular thing comes back. And that doesn't apply to leadership. There are things called mother superiors. You may have heard of them. Men aren't the only ones who can lead. Although coeducation is a whole nother topic and not one that I'm an expert on. So I'm just going to default to the Catholic Church for that one, actually. The traditional non-Novus Ordo Catholic Church, not the one that has synthesized itself with Freemasonic mafia garbage. Which I know most mafias are actually just the Napolitano monarchists trying to adhere to their old culture after the Venetian-style revolution that took place in Italy. It is what it is, you know. Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 rostandira, eri appuntaro. Era torera, Anyone who uses AI to pad their videos instead of taking the time to find actually good pictures is an automatic ick from me. You don't need 200 pictures in an hour. I'd rather see classical paintings displayed longer so I can parse the artisan detail. And I'd rather have dry statistical graphs than any uncanny, overshiny, poorly shaded AI images. Straight up. Gen Xers love talking about the Matrix like it's reality. Like, yeah, you're talking about movies. That's it. That's the Matrix. People with 400 movies in their living room are no different than the people with 200 video games in physical form. Congratulations, you have your enrichment, you have your entertainment. Now what? You'll be constantly content, and no matter what happens to you, you'll have a coping mechanism to override it. That's not always good. You have to be able to summon forth a coping mechanism when it's necessary, but not default on it like a crutch until your muscles atrophy, you see. You have to do PT inside of you, in your psychology. And that's taking the blue pill. That's taking the blue pill, that constant comfort. Think soy jacks. And on the other side, what's the red pill in this instance? It's owning nothing and being happy. It's building nothing, no family, nothing to pass on, but only seeking to destroy and consume. It's going into debt so you can pretend to be cool. It's the same emotional immaturity. Take the white pill and build a life, build a family, build a neighborhood, build a community, build a state, build a nation, build the world, raise the tide. That's what you need to be doing. The definition of a faggot has changed and remained the same. South Park perfectly encapsulated the behavior of the people who make as much noise with their Harleys as possible by repurposing the term faggot brilliantly. But since then, that exact trend of extremely childish mental illness has gone mainstream. Now a faggot can be the pavement princess with his gay little Hemi, or a muscle car douche with a cherry bomb and no muffler. And most especially, those third world style crotch rockets that sound like mosquitoes. I hate them. I hate them. All of these are now also under the flag of faggotry. And it's important to note the progression of this term, since it used to mean homosexual, but now we know more about homosexuals who run the gambit between degenerate grooming victim who's a direct result of society failing, and, on the other end of the spectrum, a pedophile rapist like Kevin Spacey who wants to wear women's skin as a suit, actively destroying society willfully and deliberately until there is no pre-modern, well-defined culture left therein. I learned recently that the reason why a man walks on a woman's left side, which is what I was taught from a young age, is that he can pull his sword on his right and defend her. But it also applies to pushing a woman away from a veering car, based on what side of the sidewalk that people tend to walk, which is the same side that people drive on in America. That's what I always thought it meant, but apparently this traces back a while. If you don't know, always put yourself on the left side of the woman, be on the right side. She has to be on your right side, and you be on her left side. Don't force it, but suggest it, bring up the history, and make it a habit. That's what I would say. I've been parsing this for a while, and I think I've finally grasped it. A lot of the high-fidelity Jewish thinkers focus on archetypes, but hyper-focus on ancient Hebrew archetypes like Samson. Despite the fact that the ancient Israeli society was disjointed and rheumatic, and thus did not possess a strong collective unconscious, like Christendom does, even which the shadow of the alchemist was still contiguous through the contiguity of Christianity as the baseboard by which to bounce off of. They do this because, as the foundation of Christianity, it is attached to the most important religion the world has ever known. From a lot of these same minds, there are many gods who fight for dominance, and Jesus is just one of these demigods in service of his patron. This subverts and ignores the actual message of Christ because it displaces his very real actions of taking the throne of King David and bowing to the potential of all mankind to attune themselves to God and be loved by him. Ancient Israeli society was the same as any of the other human-sacrificing, tribal, barbarian societies that have existed and still exist in winnowing pockets on this earth. Only through the kingdom of Judah was the struggle of Abraham preserved. And Benjamin, unfortunately, the tribe of Benjamin also preserved it, but they got miscegenated out. This is a Hebrew term. They got miscegenated out of their birthright, which is unfortunate because they were one of the two tribes that actually maintained the non-Phoenician, hyper-progressive, selling like sex figurines and trading all over the world and setting up colonies everywhere to metastasize that cancer into the coasts. If you ever know the term beautiful boaters, a lot of these people are radiated by this culture. A new Adam and Eve were brought forth from the kingdom of Judah to start again. Mary and Christ. This is why all one has to do is get baptized, receive their sacrifice in remembrance of him, to start their journey on the right foot. But what takes place during the other 6 days of the week is extremely important too. You do not want to be a Sunday Christian, whether you're Catholic, Orthodox, or Protestant. You don't, really. This also explains why Zionists never grow up from the dead baby jokes. Apparently it's not a joke for them. We're all finding that out in the last 2 years. It's a culture. It's literally the reason why there is so much abortion in this country, instead of just women being chaste. And you'll find the ones that are fighting the hardest to keep abortion are Zionists, and they're brainwashed. Pills can change your personality drastically, and it oftentimes does it in ways that you will not notice and have not been noted in the official literature. And the more psychiatrists and psychologists get molded in a Freudian sense, the more they will prescribe people drugs. Apparently women who are on birth control, their brain chemistry changes, and they take these adult Star Wars fans and they give them children. And those adult Star Wars fans then tune out because they recognize that the children, especially the younger girls, are worth more than them. And so they want to be that, and then they turn into an infantile, regressive aping of the valuable things in society. Now, there's a tier list, actually, with white women on the top and Native American, apparently women, not men, on the bottom. It's very unfortunate, but that's the actual tier list of worthy victim, unworthy victim. That's a Chomsky term, but he didn't create this tier list. People boiled this tier list down by watching mainstream media long enough. And that's not, of course, everybody is, in a sense, capable of being worth just as much as any other person. It's our choices, not our skin color, not our race, and not our gender, that determines actual value. But we have this weird, hypermodern Freudian psychology, and once your brain chemistry starts being changed, it's a slippery slope. It really is. Even amphetamines. Really, you do not want to go down that path. Your life will. I think amphetamines are one of the worst ways of ruining your life, because they will make you so unbelievably angry and upset all the time. And that is very unfortunate. Steroids too. I don't think that people who have insanely high testosterone actually end up being happy at the end of the day, because when they're done with their little temper tantrums, they start regretting it a lot. And the anti-pedophile people don't want null anywhere near them. It's like how Israel constantly pretends like they're the protectors of the Druze when the Druze hate them for their evil actions and kick them out whenever they have the opportunity. Anti-pedophile people see that Josh spent his teenage years gooning to child torture porn. It doesn't matter how much he attacks the VTubers on Xitter. That's just a smokescreen for what the actual character Josh has inside of him is. Trust me, I've tried very hard to induce a permanent change in his psychology, but what slowly dawned on me with horror is that Josh will always emulate whatever he's around. He's literally, I'm not joking about that. That's very unfortunate. And other people know this, so you better learn this. Josh is so stupid, he copies anybody that he likes and everybody that is around. He wants to complain about Sam Hyde's fault. Oh, wow. Sam Hyde surrounds himself with sycophants that never talk shit to his face and always agree with him in public, but then they're allowed to do stuff off the cuff because he's not right there reacting to it violently. I wonder who that sounds like. I wonder if that sounds like his entire moderator and admin staff and everybody that he keeps close and gives special privileges to. Like, for real. It's insane. So Zionist flooding his website like 4chan is now his new personality. Second verse, same as the first. They want to kill children, and apparently so did he at one point. But now he's smart enough to know that there's nobody on earth people hate more than pedophiles. So his new mask is augmented with anti-pedo veneers. What he said about 8chan and giving spaces to pedophiles because he's a libertarian is archived forever. It's never going anywhere. You're here forever. So you better try your best, man. You better try your best. This Israel stuff is going to sink you into the mud. And then you're going to be like Magnus. You're going to make this horrible deal and you're going to lose yourself and everybody around you forever. This is perfectly encapsulated by him saying he wishes Israel invades and bombs Jordan. He doesn't care about the details. He just hears hating Muslims is popular. And like an over-socialized male, as Ted Kaczynski would say, he joins the chorus when it gets loud. Despite archived evidence of him hating Israel and defending Muslims, attacking trannies before. Sorry if you like him. You gotta know this. You can still like him if you know this. If you actually like him, try to steer him in the right direction if you have his ear. That's all I'll say. That's the only advice that I can give. They might kick you sometimes, but like you really have to be brave enough to do that. Okay? Okay. All right, y'all. Cheers.